I was looking through the Oscars Best Picture nominees in January. I was going to do a video, and well, I think most of you could probably relate when I say that I saw a 3.5-hour long post-World War II epic, and I thought, oh, look, that's Oscar bait. Lovely. I mean, come on, if I had a nickel for every time I saw a super long Oscar-nominated film starring Adrian Brody, who plays a Jew escaping the Holocaust and starting a new life as an immigrant with his one special skill, and the movie is called The Skillist,
I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
So believe me when I tell you I understand your skepticism at these following words. The Brutalist genuinely is a cinematic masterpiece, and I am still thinking about it a year later. I mean, here I am doing a film analysis on it because I have to talk about it with you. But why? Like, what was it about this film that I could not shake? Weirdly, the fact that I couldn't figure out why it affected me so much added to its effect on me. But on my third rewatch, yes, it clicked and it hit hard. At first I thought, is it just because it's gorgeous? Because it is. Shot almost entirely in VistaVision, The Brutalist does not look like any movie that you've seen in a couple of decades. The coloring, the cinematography, the technique with field of view to give shots such a grand feel, it is visually stunning. But in a simple kind of way, like the director did not need a cut every second and a half, there wasn't CGI all over the place. This film is kind of like excellent bread. Very few ingredients, just it's made with care and skill. But I don't think it was the visuals alone, because that's not what makes anything stay in your mind for months and months, nor was it the acting, even though that was phenomenal as well. Adrian Brody plays a tortured, intense artist with just the right amount of haunted eyes, not too much. Guy Pearce's performance was the best out of everyone, and that's a very high bar. It's a real credit to director Brady Corbett that he was able to get these amazing performances out of everyone, even smaller parts by Joe Alwyn, Alessandra Nivola, and Emma Laird without going overboard. Similarly, the score, also excellent, elevating the scenes without being obtrusive or manipulative. All of those things are decorations, though. They're important, to be sure, and the execution of each was top-notch here. But what continues to make this movie stick with me in a way that most modern storytelling fails to, what makes me want to watch this thing for a 4th time, is the question that it leaves me with. Where is the balance between art and product, between joy and productivity?
That there is something inside for the people to discover. So that it is one building, not 4. For its harmony.
We are not going back inside until you look us all straight in the eye and you tell us where you are willing to compromise.
This is an excellently told story with numerous themes, possibly too many. Actually, it's one big criticism that I have. Sometimes it kind of feels like it's lost in its own depth. There are multiple layers you could do theme analysis on. Art as an addiction, a drug. Art as selfish, a creative obsession. The jealousy of the non-creative businessman. The failure of a successful parent to pass talent or work ethic onto their child. The difference between American and European culture. Immigrant identity and assimilation. A critique of the American dream. The homelessness of the Jews after World War II. And of course, brutalism architecture as a philosophy, a general outlook. The pros and cons of this extreme modernist view. Now, we'll touch on some of those, but that first big question is what turns this into a psychological drama, and it keeps me thinking about the film. That central pillar is this tension between art and money, and to get that, you have to understand these two main characters and their continuous conflict. Harrison Van Buren is a businessman, an industrialist. He understands the world in money and product. Lazlo Toth is an artist, and his vision is all that matters. Everyone and everything else be damned. And the two are both antithetical and interreliant, and that struggle is the core theme of the movie. Now, I love a good straightforward morality movie. Like, sure, a narrative structure might be exploring a concept, but, here's how the bad guy approaches it, and here's how the good guy approaches it. And we're going to view the results through those lenses. I have been highly critical of moral complexity in Hollywood lately, and I will continue to be so, because it usually turns out to be spineless moral ambiguity that basically presents everybody as bad and then shrugs at you at the end and says, well, I guess it's all just shades of gray, we'll never know, huh?
Wow, that's deep.
Deeply dumb.
Now, on the surface, it seems like this movie is heading there, because both main characters are not great. But The Brutalist does identify what is bad, and that is extremes. It does not present a solution or tell you exactly what good looks like, but the identification of the bad extremes implies that a blending is what is good, and leaves you, the viewer, to think about where along that gradient you think it belongs. This movie is so refreshing because it's not saying art good, money bad, or vice versa. It's saying that both become monstrous when they exist alone. We get an early look at the only character who avoids this catastrophe by balancing them, and that is Attila. Lazlo has fled post-World War II Europe and finds his cousin Attila, who owns a furniture store. Now, Lazlo is a bit dismayed that his cousin has assimilated so heavily into American culture. He's changed his last name, his way of speaking, and converted to Catholicism, all to be Americanized.
He's talking like an American from the television now.
Yes, well, we don't have a television, but he's been here since before I was born and still doesn't sound like any American I've ever met.
Who is Miller?
I'm Miller.
No, you are Monarch.
Not anymore.
Exactly.
We are Catholic.
As a result, he is successful. And we don't even get told that he's like secretly hates his life, as you might expect. He made the sacrifices, and he seems happy with the results. Again, up to you to decide if that's really worth it. Now, Lazlo helps him with a remodel job for a rich client, or really the rich client's son, Harry. And ever the artist, Lazlo has a grand but unusual idea for the job.
The way the space surrounds one, the forced perspective. It reminds me of a short story I once read. It's about a never-ending library.
The remodel was supposed to be a surprise for Harry's father, Harrison, who comes home early and is not excited. Attila blames Lazlo for the job gone sour and acquiesces to his Catholic wife's wishes that Jewish Lazlo move out. But later on, when Harrison calms down and comes looking for the person responsible for the new unique design that he gets to show off to his rich friends, Attila does not take credit and points him toward Lazlo. Despite being the main character, Lazlo is not our good guy archetype. Attila is. Or, he's as close as we're gonna get. He's found his balance, trading some of his culture for the American dream. He's got a wife, he owns a little furniture store, but he's not trying to be Mr. Industry Tycoon. He lives behind the store. By all appearances, he's got a good life. But neither Lazlo nor Harrison will find a balance, and most of the conflict and sub-themes stem from their failures. Now, I've seen other Brutalist reviews, and something that bothers folks is that Lazlo is kind of a crappy person. He's the protagonist. Why is he so awful?
The main character, Toth, has essentially no redeeming qualities. He's a junkie and an adulterer who designs ugly buildings.
That's the thing, though. Lazlo is also bad. He is one of those extremes. Despite escaping war-torn Europe and not knowing his wife's fate, he heads to a brothel right away. He also has a heroin problem. See, Lazlo is an addict, and his addiction to women and drugs are parallels for his addiction to his art. His creations are only for himself, really. When Harrison tracks him down and shows him the pictures of buildings that he designed, Lazlo breaks down in tears on finding these lost loves. It's one thing to be proud of work that you've done, but Lazlo's reaction here is not happiness to be recognized for good work. He's regaining these pieces of himself that were lost.
I'm sorry. Have I upset you?
The art matters even more than his own wife. In the second half, his wife Erzsébet and his niece Sophia are found, and they're brought to America. And the reunion is kind of awkward, because Lazlo is obviously happy to see his wife, to know she's alive, but also he knows that his attention is going to be divided between his two loves now. What he wants most is to lose himself in his vices, and chief among them is his architecture. Ultimately, he's a deeply selfish person. Sometimes his ideas do work for others, but that's accidental. Like, his remodel of the library turned out to be cool, and highbrow people enjoyed it. But when Harrison wants him to build a community center, Lazlo is not interested in its function, only its deep meaning and symbolism. It's easy for him to say the money doesn't matter, only the art, but this building still has to be used by people, and somebody's got to pay for it. This is a common tragedy for creative people. One of their creations is a hit, and people want that same thing again. But the creator doesn't want to be in that little box. And they end up resenting the specific creation that made them famous and the audience because no one truly understands. Lazlo especially resents Harrison, who he has to rely on for funding.
Who pays for it? You gonna pay for it?
But what makes Harrison such an amazing character is that he does genuinely want to understand. In a sea of stupid eat the rich stories where the rich guy is evil, just, because obviously, he's rich, Harrison stands out because he doesn't want to use Lazlo for a quick buck and then toss him out. His great Salieri-esque tragedy is that he recognizes his own lack of creativity and desperately wants to have some. He tries to surround himself with artistry, hoping that artmosis might be a real thing. He enjoys Lazlo's company because he feels like it's getting him there.
I found our conversation persuasive and intellectually stimulating. But I find our conversations intellectually stimulating.
Unfortunately, he still views things in a business-like fashion. He conquers, that's his job, and he doesn't know how to appreciate a thing for itself and himself. It has to be shown to be valuable by others.
It is beautiful. Exactly as you describe.
He couldn't fully care about the library remodel until other people praised it. In one scene, he explains that his love of architecture was really random and born from conquering wine collecting. He realized he had collected enough fine wine to last multiple lifetimes, and so he needed a new pursuit.
Perhaps it was because my cellar was full. I collect books, butterflies, and such, but above all else, Portuguese Madeira. I've done the maths, and if I were to uncork a bottle 7 days a week for the next 30 years, I would need no more than 10,000 bottles. So, once the cellar was full, it was time to set about in a new direction. Out of the cellar and into the sky.
Eventually, he realizes that he is not able to own Lazlo or his creativity, and he attempts to take him, nonetheless, in a very uncomfortable scene. Now, on the surface, this is a pretty brash metaphor for how capitalism ravages art, but it gets deeper. No pun intended. Earlier in the film, Harrison straight up admits his jealousy.
I, of course, am devoid of any such talent. Truth be told, I am incredibly emulous of individuals like him.
Now that may sound like humble praise, but Guy Pearce is masterful at conveying the subtext of a true confession right there. Harrison sees that he can't create like Lazlo, and his jealousy is made worse by his anger because he feels like Lazlo is wasting his talent. Again, Harrison fundamentally cannot understand art as a pure expression. He sees it as possibilities for sale or status, and it makes him furious that Lazlo has all this potential that he, Harrison, thinks he could put to better use.
You have so much potential, but you squander it.
Like Lazlo, Harrison is deeply selfish, and that selfishness affects those around him. His son, Harry, is an awful person who, it is suggested, molests Zofia. He also is just kind of dumb, continually playing at being a rich member of the upper class, but clearly lacking any of the skills or work ethic that built the family fortune. We see where it comes from, though. Harrison couldn't care less about him, and Harry spends the entire movie trying desperately to be noticed by his father. We also see the collateral damage by Lazlo and Harrison with Erzsébet. Her appearance throws a wrench into everything, and not because of anything that she does, but because she's a distraction that both men do not want. As we already discussed, she's not Lazlo's true love. She doesn't provide the same high as building, which is kind of crazy because like at any given time, she just wants to climb him like a freaking tree or at least throw an HJ or a ZJ at him, you know?
What's a ZJ?
If you have to ask, big man, you can't afford it.
But her advanced osteoporosis also inconveniently requires his help, and she very annoyingly points out the toxic relationship between himself and Harrison, which he really wants to ignore. Harrison really doesn't love these two new women hanging around either. They're distracting his architect. And to him, they have no value. He has nothing to gain and everything to lose by having these two here. Erzsébet is the call back to humanity that neither man wants to heed. Now, this same general story could have been told about anything, and we could have gotten this same message. But the symbolism of the subject matter is what cranks this thing up to 11, and I didn't have the background to get it all at first. But this film is so fantastic that I wanted to go do research to truly enjoy it on all of its levels. See, both Harrison and Lazlo represent a stripped down extreme, a single-mindedness that might, make sense with context, but it's still very unpleasant. And that whole concept receives amazing meta-commentary and reinforcement through the architectural metaphor being featured, brutalism. Brutalism is a great illustration of the modernist philosophy approach at its extreme, which contrasts itself with pre-modernism and its gilded intricacies and scrollwork and flourish. Modernism strips away the superfluous in an attempt to discover what is the most important. In the movie, Lazlo catches Van Buren's attention because he redesigns the library into this barren space that focuses everything on the chair in the center, because the reader and the book are the most important thing, not the library shelves, not the intricate woodwork. In a fantastic parallel to the movie's theme, modernist brutalism versus pre-modern flourish reveals that neither is perfect. Pre-modernism can certainly look cluttered and overwhelming, and fails for so many people because it makes their lives feel cluttered and overwhelming. But brutalism failed for the same reason that minimalism fails. Yeah, it can help you get rid of the clutter, the things that do not spark joy, help us focus. But what we eventually find is that we do, in fact, need beauty, soul. We need freaking whimsy sometimes, okay? We need form as well as function. Minimalism has this great sales pitch about a clean aesthetic, straight lines. But what you will find in the majority of applications are rooms, and by extension lives, with no warmth, especially the lights. 2700K gang represent! By trying to remove unnecessary ideas and objects, what these philosophies ironically reveal is that they were necessary all along. The idea of post-war architecture is simpleness and equality, honest materials, no frills, everything is open and upfront. Many brutalist designers thought they were making utopian structures where everybody was connected and waste was eliminated by using cheap but sturdy concrete instead of aristocratic and semi-renewable exotic woods. If you look into it, what brutalism was supposed to represent sounds pretty nice. In practice, though, people find them cold and imposing, oppressive even. In their high-mindedness, these architects forgot about the humans who would be using these buildings and their human nature. Housing projects like Pruitt-Igoe, Cabrini Green, they were going to revolutionize poor communities. They were efficient and affordable, but also soulless. When people look at brutalist buildings now, they don't see any of that optimism. They see sterility. Something in the human spirit just recoils from this dead, gray, washed-out simplicity that has been trying to make a comeback lately, and it's failing for the same reason, and thank God. What's interesting about the movie is that Lazlo wants to make these buildings, but they also represent the character of Van Buren, which is probably why they speak to him. They're supposed to contain this deep meaning, but they're kind of off-putting and pretentious. Like Lazlo.
Is there a better description of a cube than that of its construction?
They're supposed to be efficient and smart, pointing to a brighter tomorrow, but they're cold and they lack humanity, like Harrison.
On condition that they let Margaret alone from then on. I struck them a separate check for $500 and I signed.
Ultimately, this film is trying to tell you about utopian dreams and stripped down purity. They're stupid. In its place, the real goal, the real paradise, is the blend that you decide on. Real life is not about the pursuit of some idyllic perfection. The mix of art and product, beauty and practicality, work and rest, form and function, that is what makes life livable. You want beautiful things and comforts? Great. You want to work hard, be productive, achieve material successes? Outstanding. what's important to remember is that neither one alone will really satisfy you. And those concepts are not in opposition to each other. Further, the balance is never static or universal. Look, I could not get this movie out of my head, and I still can't, because it so beautifully encapsulates that concept, and it asks the viewer to consider where they think the balance is, and how far away from it they might currently be. Now, the ending is a bit jarring, but it seems to reinforce this idea about extremes. After a time jump in a completely different filming style, Zofia is speaking for Lazlo, who's in a wheelchair. He's mute, and Erzsébet is gone. She claims that he told her one time that the destination is more important than the journey, which, okay, first of all, I'm sorry, we know journey comes before destination, just as life comes before death, okay? But also, looking at Lazlo in this scene, his destination seems pretty terrible. After she says this, we just cut directly to credits, while a completely out-of-place tune bops along. To me, it feels like the end of Full Metal Jacket, capping off a horrific and tragic movie with a chorus of soldiers singing the Mickey Mouse Club song. I think it's an inversion on purpose, but it does make for kind of a shaky end. There are so many more things that could be said about this film and its many, many layers, which is why I implore you to go watch this. Afterward, come back here, tell me what you thought. If you have seen it, what stood out to you the most, and what did you think about that ending? I appreciate you watching. See you next time.